Why did Reconstruction go so badly? Although we tend to treat the Civil War and the resulting emancipation of slaves as a great American victory, the actual outcome of the war was far less obviously an improvement on what had preceded for a wide variety of reasons. Reconstruction failed due to the government's lack of coherent strategy, which created a power vacuum in the former Confederacy. The three reasons are the fog of war, no unified political leadership, and there were many ex-Confederate terrorists. Number 1. The fog of war. The Civil War was one of the first modern wars, since it was more like World War I than any ancient wars. They used some trench warfare, heavy artillery, they had the introduction of technological innovations, and used some total warfare, which made it more like World War I than previous wars. One example of total warfare was General William Sherman's March to the Sea. He led an army from Atlanta, Georgia to Savannah, Georgia. They specifically targeted civilians, which embittered the population and made Reconstruction much more difficult. He also freed many slaves, seized the property of the former slave owners, and using Field Order 15, gave the seized lands to the former slaves. General William Sherman's remarks on this total warfare that he used was, quote, "War is cruelty. There is no use trying to reform it. The crueler it is, the sooner it will be over." During the Civil War, the Native Americans sided with the Confederates. After the war, though, the Confederates moved to Brazil, about 20,000 of them. You can still see the obvious difference between them and between their descendants and most of the Brazilians. Number 2, there was no unified political leadership. The Civil War was fought to reunify the United States. Lincoln's decision to have a Southern Democrat, Andrew Johnson, for vice president was meant to help that, but instead turned against his whole plan. John Wilkes Booth was one of the most famous actors of the antebellum era. He soon killed Lincoln after Lincoln was elected for his second term. This all complicated Reconstruction. Andrew Johnson wanted to take revenge on his old enemies, and when he became president, it gave him power to do so. But he did not hurt them, but instead gave them back their land, which they wanted, but they had no slaves to work it. The post-radical Republicans were okay with Johnson being president, but had three things they wanted, some of which Johnson didn't. 1, they wanted revenge to punish the South for causing the war, which Johnson wanted. 2, they were concerned for freed slaves, which also Johnson wanted, but the radicals wanted to keep the Republican Party in power, and Johnson was a Democrat. One of the ways the post-radical Republicans helped the freed slaves because how they sent the carpetbaggers down south. One such carpetbagger was Marshall Harvey Twitchell. He was the son of a Vermont farmer and enlisted in the Union Army in the first year of the Civil War. He survived many of the major battles such as Antietam and led black troops. At the end of the war, he went to Louisiana and became an agent of the Freedmen's Bureau. He was assigned to the Northern Red River, which was a very dangerous place. You may also know it as where Harriet Beecher Stowe had Uncle Tom go at the end of her book, where he eventually dies. There were many other carpetbaggers that helped freed slaves. They helped through getting them educated and integrating them back into American society. Eric Foner says most carpetbaggers probably combine the desire for personal gain with a commitment to take part in an effort. In other words, they did it for personal gain. Number 3. There are many ex-Confederate terrorists. The major group of these ex-Confederate terrorists were the Ku Klux Klan, also known as the KKK. They were formed first as an imitation of a fraternity from the antebellum era. It was very popular and called the Sons of Malta. It was started in Pulaski, Tennessee in 1865, soon after the war. But this social club soon became a terrorist club. They first became developed as a social club for the Confederate veterans, but eventually became a powerful terrorist group. They killed without consequence and used it as a tool of intimidation. John Greenberg says Tuskegee work confirms 344 black documented lynchings and another 1,300 lynchings of whites. End quote. They didn't only kill African Americans, but they also killed the whites. Probably they were Union soldiers or veterans from the Union Army. The KKK thwarted the better aspects of Reconstruction, and media coverage and positive cinematic depictions helped spread their message and revive it. They weakened the political power of Southern blacks and Republicans. Although we tend to treat the Civil War and the resulting emancipation of slaves as a great American victory, the actual outcome of the war was far less obviously an improvement on what had preceded for a wide variety of reasons. Reconstruction failed due to the government's lack of coherent strategy, which created a power vacuum in the former Confederacy. The 3 reasons Reconstruction didn't go very well were the fog of war, no unified political leadership, and many ex-Confederate terrorists like the KKK. Thank you.